These are the most painful zombie transformations we've ever seen. 28 days later, one drop of infected blood in your eye, and you've got 10 seconds. That's how fast the rage virus works. Jim's watching activists free lab chimps when one of them gets bitten. The activist doesn't slowly succumb to fever or gradual symptoms. Her eyes go bloodshot. Foam pours from her mouth. She starts convulsing so violently she nearly breaks her own spine, and then she's gone. The person she was completely erased in the time it takes to count to 10. The opening scene establishes something crucial about fast transformations. They're not just scary because they spread quickly. They're terrifying because there's no goodbye, no final words, no chance to even process what's happening. The rage takes over before the human brain can form a coherent thought about it. Danny Boyle wanted the virus to feel like pure, unfiltered aggression taking control of a body, and that's exactly what it looks like. Veins bulge, muscles seize, blood vessels burst in the eyes from the sheer force of whatever's flooding through the bloodstream. Frank's transformation later in the movie hits different because you've spent time with him. He's protecting his daughter, Hannah, leading her and the other survivors to safety, being the responsible adult holding everyone together. Then a single drop of blood falls from a corpse hanging above him, lands right in his eye. He's got maybe 20 seconds before he's not Frank anymore, and he spends every one of them screaming at Hannah to run, to get away from him because he knows what's coming. His face contorts, his breathing turns to snarling, and Hannah has to watch her father disappear. The emotional weight of that scene comes from how little time anyone has to react. No prolonged suffering, no gradual decline, just an instant switch from human to monster. The virus doesn't care about dramatic buildup. It takes what it wants immediately. But rapid infections only destroy you. What comes next is where transformation becomes a choice. And one victim proves consciousness can be worse than mindlessness. The question is, would you mutilate yourself to stay human just a little longer? Return of the Living Dead. 3. Julie Walker loves Brian, and Brian loves Julie. Then Julie dies in a motorcycle accident, and Brian makes the worst decision of his life. He brings her body to the military facility where his dad works, the same place that houses trioxin gas, and he uses it to bring her back. For a few beautiful, terrible moments, it works. Julie's alive again. She remembers him. They can be together. Then the side effects start. Julie begins feeling the same pain every trioxin zombie experiences, that constant burning ache that demands brains to ease it, but Julie's still human enough to fight it, to resist what the infection wants her to do. So she finds another way to deal with the pain. She starts mutilating herself, pushing shards of broken glass into her skin, driving pieces of metal through her flesh, piercing herself over and over because somehow creating new pain distracts from the zombie pain. The movie shows her transformation as a slow spiral across multiple scenes. First, she's fine, just a little cold. Then she's scratching at her arms, agitated, unable to sit still. The scratching becomes clawing. She tears open a first aid kit and starts experimenting with what makes the hunger quiet down. Turns out, fresh pain works. By the halfway point, Julie's covered in piercings, metal studs, broken glass, anything sharp enough to hurt. She looks like a punk nightmare, but it's not fashion. It's survival. What makes Julie's transformation so brutal is the consciousness behind it. She knows what she's doing. She makes deliberate choices about how to handle becoming a monster, and every choice involves hurting herself to stay in control just a little bit longer. Brian has to watch the person he loves turn herself into a walking pincushion because the alternative is her eating people. The transformation takes days, and every day she's a little less Julie and a little more Thing. The military eventually catches up to them, trying to study what Julie's become. By then, she's killed several people, and the human parts of her are fading fast. Her final moments are spent trying to end herself before she loses the ability to care that she's a monster. The whole arc turns the transformation into a tragedy where the victim stays aware long enough to understand exactly how doomed they are. Julie's suffering was private, contained to 2 people. But what happens when transformation becomes a public execution? When everyone watches and no one can help? That's where confined spaces turn infection into theater. And one train proves nowhere is far enough to run. Train to Busan. The infection spreads through a moving train, and that confined space makes every transformation feel claustrophobic. You can't escape. You can't give someone space to turn quietly. When someone gets bitten, everyone in that train car knows they're about to watch someone become a monster, and there's nowhere to run except the next car over. The zombies in Train to Busan don't shamble. They sprint, they shriek, and they contort in ways human spines shouldn't bend. The transformation hits fast. Bite to turn takes maybe 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes are visible, loud, and violent. Victims start sweating immediately. Their eyes cloud over with white film. Veins darken under their skin like black rivers spreading through their body. Then comes the neck snap, this horrible jerking motion where their head whips to the side and their posture changes completely. They go from human stance to predator crouch in one brutal spasm. One of the most painful scenes involves a train attendant who gets scratched early on. She tries to hide it, knowing what it means, but the other passengers notice her sweating, shaking, touching the wound like it's burning. She stumbles into the bathroom and locks herself in, hoping maybe it won't happen if she's alone. Wrong. The transformation takes her in that tiny bathroom space, and everyone outside can hear it, the thuds against the door, the sounds she's making as her body breaks itself into something new. When she comes back out, there's nothing human left in her eyes. What Train to Busan does differently is show how transformations create chaos in group dynamics. Every time someone turns, it forces impossible decisions. Do you lock them out and listen to them die? Do you try to restrain them? Do you kill them before they turn completely? The father protagonist, Seok Woo, has to make these calls while protecting his daughter, and every transformation puts her in more danger. The speed of the infection means there's no time for plans or preparations. Someone gets bitten, and you've got 2 minutes to figure out what you're doing about it. The film's most devastating transformation comes near the end with the train attendant who's been helping them. She's bitten protecting others, and she knows immediately what it means. She doesn't try to hide it or fight it. She just quietly moves away from the group, finds a corner, and waits for it to take her. Her transformation is fast but visible through the train window, her body jerking and seizing until she's no longer the person who was helping minutes ago. The survivors have to watch, knowing they can't help, knowing she's gone. Korean zombie cinema tends to emphasize family bonds during outbreaks, which makes transformations hit harder. You're not watching strangers turn. You're watching fathers, daughters, pregnant women, elderly passengers. Each transformation is someone's family member becoming a threat. At least those victims lose consciousness quickly. But what if your body brought back pain receptors along with mobility? What if you felt every mutation, every bone breaking, every new appendage tearing through your skin? That's not a virus. That's weaponized agony. And the Nazis documented every second. Overlord. Nazi experiments during World War II meet zombie horror, and the results are about as pleasant as you'd expect. American paratroopers discover a secret lab under a French village where German scientists are injecting people with a serum designed to create super soldiers. The serum doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Instead of making better soldiers, it brings dead tissue back to life in the most violent way possible. The first transformation the soldiers witness happens to a local villager who got killed by the Nazis. They inject him with the serum and watch what happens. His body jerks upright like electricity just shot through him. Bones crack audibly as they reset into new positions. His eyes snap open, but there's no life in them, just movement. The corpse starts screaming this raw animal sound that shouldn't come from a dead throat. Veins bulge across his skin, turning black, like ink spreading through water. What makes Overlord's transformations uniquely painful is the serum brings back pain receptors along with mobility. These aren't numbed-out zombies. They feel everything happening to their bodies, every bone breaking, every mutation. One soldier gets infected and spends his transformation phase shrieking while tentacles erupt from his torso. Not metaphorical tentacles, actual fleshy appendages tearing through his skin from the inside. He's conscious enough to look down and see what's growing out of him before the human parts of his brain shut down. The main villain, Waffner, intentionally infects himself near the climax. He believes the serum will make him powerful, unstoppable. He's partially right. The transformation gives him enhanced strength and resilience, but the cost is visible. His face starts peeling away. His jaw dislocates and reforms. He's essentially watching himself become a monster in real time and choosing to let it happen because he thinks the power is worth it. The movie shows his skin bubbling and splitting, new bone structures pushing through old ones, all while he's trying to maintain enough control to still command his troops. The W-through setting adds context that makes the transformations more disturbing. These aren't accidental infections. This is deliberate human experimentation, people being forcibly injected and transformed as test subjects. The Nazis documented everything, keeping meticulous records of how long each subject lasted, what mutations occurred, which combinations of serum produced what results. The lab is full of failed experiments, bodies that didn't survive the process, twisted corpses that show what happens when the transformation goes wrong. Individual horror is contained. But what happens when transformation spreads faster than humans can count? When mathematics becomes the monster? Keep that thought, because one city shows what exponential growth looks like in human bodies, and 12 seconds is all it takes. World War Z. The opening sequence in Philadelphia shows how fast a zombie outbreak can consume a city. Jerry Lane is sitting in traffic with his family when the first attacks start. At first, it looks like a riot. People running, screaming, general chaos. Then you see the first transformation happen in the street right next to their car. A man gets bitten. 12 seconds later, he's a zombie. 12 seconds. The speed creates exponential growth that's mathematically terrifying. One zombie makes 2, 2 make 4, 4 make 8. Within minutes, entire city blocks are overrun. World War Z doesn't linger on individual transformations because it doesn't need to. The horror is in the scale. Watching waves of people transform in real time, watching the infection spread faster than anyone can process what's happening, but the movie does show enough detail to establish how violent the turn is. Victims seize up, their heads snap backward, and they immediately attack the nearest person. There's no transition period, no adjustment phase. The virus hijacks the body's motor functions instantly. You see people transforming mid-sprint, their running stride changing from panicked human to predatory zombie without breaking pace. They crash into walls, tumble down stairs, slam into cars, because the virus doesn't care about preserving the body. It just wants to spread. One of the most brutal transformation scenes happens on the plane. An infected person turns mid-flight, and the enclosed space means everyone's trapped with it. The transformation happens during turbulence, so the new zombie is already being thrown around the cabin. It attacks the nearest passenger, who transforms within seconds and attacks someone else. The chain reaction happens so fast that by the time anyone realizes what's going on, half the plane is infected. People are transforming in their seats, in the aisles, in the bathroom. The survivors have to fight their way through a plane full of zombies that were passengers minutes ago. What World War Z emphasizes is the helplessness of watching transformations happen too fast to stop. By the time you recognize what's happening to someone, they're already a threat. The movie strips away any chance for emotional goodbyes or meaningful last moments. The infection is a wildfire, and people are the fuel. The Israeli wall scene later in the film shows this same rapid spread horror on an even bigger scale. Thousands of refugees are safely inside the walls when singing triggers the zombies outside. The infected pile on top of each other, creating a ramp of bodies that eventually breaches the wall. Once they're inside, the transformation wave sweeps through the crowd. You see hundreds of people getting bitten and turning in a matter of minutes. The transformation is visible across the entire crowd, a ripple effect of violence spreading outward from each new zombie. Speed creates chaos. But what about transformations that drag out for hours, when you're dying slow enough to count every symptom? That's where the T-virus separates itself, because it gives you time to understand what's being stolen. Resident Evil. The T-virus doesn't rush. Reyna Ocampo gets bitten during the team's mission in the Hive, and she knows exactly what it means. The movie shows her decline across multiple scenes. First, she's fine, just a scratch, nothing to worry about. Then she starts sweating. Her skin goes pale. She's struggling to keep up with the group, moving slower, making mistakes. The T-virus breaks down the body systematically. It starts with flu-like symptoms, fever, chills, nausea. Then the physical deterioration begins. Hair starts falling out, teeth loosen and rot. The infected person can feel themselves dying in slow motion, their body shutting down piece by piece. Rain spends the middle section of the film knowing she's on borrowed time, that every minute brings her closer to becoming one of the things they're fighting. What makes Rain's transformation painful to watch is how hard she fights it. She keeps moving, keeps fighting, keeps trying to help the team even as the virus eats away at her. Her teammates can see it happening. They know she's going to turn. Alice even considers mercy killing her several times but can't bring herself to do it. So Rain just keeps going, getting weaker and paler and more violent in her movements as the infection takes hold. When she finally turns, it happens quietly. The group gets separated, and when they find Rain again, she's already gone. The person who was fighting alongside them is now trying to kill them. The T-virus doesn't leave room for partial transformations or lingering humanity. Once it finishes its work, the host is completely replaced by something that wears their face. The Resident Evil franchise explores different virus variants across multiple films, each with their own transformation characteristics. Las Plagas parasites in later films cause tentacles to erupt from the host's body. The Ouroboros virus turns people into massive mutated monsters. But the core T-virus transformation in the first film establishes the template, a slow, inevitable decline where the infected person remains conscious long enough to understand what's being taken from them. What the movie adds that the games sometimes gloss over is the social aspect of transforming in a group. Rain's teammates have to decide when she stops being a person they can save and becomes a threat they need to eliminate. They have to watch someone they've trained with, fought alongside, trusted with their lives, become their enemy. The transformation doesn't just destroy Rain. It forces everyone who cares about her to participate in that destruction. Hours of decline seems brutal. But what if your body became your own torture device? What if things grew inside you and forced their way out through your fingernails, your gums, your face? That's not infection. That's renovation. And every second is conscious. Demons. Italian horror director actor Lamberto Bava created something special when he made people transform into demons. This isn't a virus or a chemical. This is straight supernatural corruption, and it's designed to hurt. The movie takes place in a theater where a cursed mask starts the outbreak. The first victim is a prostitute who cuts herself on the mask as a joke. The cut heals instantly. Then it reopens as a throbbing pustule. The pustule grows across her face over the next 20 minutes of screen time. She can feel it expanding, this hot throbbing mass on her cheek that keeps getting bigger and more painful. She scratches at it, picks at it, trying to make it stop. Eventually, it bursts. Green pus sprays everywhere, and that's just the beginning. Her teeth start falling out, pushed out of her gums by new ones growing underneath. Fangs, essentially. She's spitting blood and teeth while claws force their way out from under her fingernails, not replacing her. Nails, growing through them. The transformation takes maybe 5 minutes of real time once it starts, but those 5 minutes show every stage of her body being rebuilt into something demonic. Her eyes change color, her skin goes gray, her voice drops several octaves into a growl. What makes demons' transformations uniquely brutal is how much they emphasize bodily invasion. Things are growing inside you and pushing their way out, your teeth being forced out of your skull, claws tearing through your nail beds. The pus bursts aren't clean either. They're thick, chunky eruptions that leave wounds behind. Every transformation involves fluids pouring out of places they shouldn't, body parts breaking and reforming, the victim essentially being renovated into a new shape while fully conscious. The movie shows multiple transformations throughout, each one slightly different but equally disgusting. One victim's transformation happens so fast that bystanders watch his face literally ripple and change shape. Another transforms slower, giving her time to realize what's happening and try to fight it off. She scratches at her own face, trying to stop the demon from emerging, tearing open her skin in the process, which only seems to speed things up. The theater setting means transformations happen in close quarters with witnesses. People are trapped in their seats, watching friends and strangers turn into monsters. The demons don't just attack, they transform their victims, spreading the curse further. By the end of the film, the entire theater audience is either dead or transformed. Each transformation added more demons to the horde, more screaming corrupted humans joining the attack. The practical effects in Demons hold up specifically because they focused on physical transformation horror. This is all prosthetics, makeup, and fake pus. No CGI to smooth out the rough edges. You see the lumps forming under the actor's skin. You see the blood running down their chin from their changing teeth. The tangible, visible nature of the transformation makes it feel more real than any digital effect could. Supernatural corruption has an excuse for horror, but what about forces that could actually exist? What happens when you're isolated, watching transformations through glass with no way to help? That question kept one gamer alive barely. Let's see why. Alive, Korean isolation horror where a gamer named Oh Jun-woo gets trapped in his apartment during a sudden zombie outbreak. The transformation he witnesses across the street sets up how the virus works in this film. A neighbor gets bitten while trying to escape. She makes it back to her apartment and locks herself in, thinking she's safe. She's not. Jun-woo watches through his window as the infection takes hold. The woman starts scratching at her bite wound compulsively, then blood starts running from her eyes like tears. Not crying. The blood vessels in her eyes are literally bursting from the internal pressure the virus creates. She stumbles around her apartment, knocking things over, clearly disoriented and in pain. Her movements become jerky, uncoordinated. Then she drops. For a moment, Jun-woo thinks she's dead. Relief. Then she stands back up, and everything about her posture is wrong. Her head hangs at an odd angle. Her arms dangle loosely. When she moves, it's in sudden bursts of speed, followed by complete stillness. The transformation didn't just make her violent, it broke something fundamental in how her body moves through space. What Nanardars Alive emphasizes is the isolation of watching transformations happen with no ability to help. Jun-woo sees his neighbor turn. He sees other people in other apartments turn. He watches his family's video messages stop coming. Each transformation represents another piece of the world being taken away from him. He can't reach out. He can't warn anyone. He just has to witness it through glass. The film shows transformations through phone screens and windows, maintaining physical distance while highlighting emotional proximity. Jun-woo sees a family in another building trying to deal with a bite victim. They're arguing about what to do. Do they kick him out? Do they try to help? The decision gets made for them when he transforms and attacks them all. Jun-woo watches the entire family get killed and turned, powerless to intervene. Later in the film, when Junwoo finally connects with another survivor across the street, Kim Yubin, they have to navigate the constant threat of transformation together while never being in the same physical space. The tension isn't just about zombies. It's about the possibility that one of them might get infected, and the other will have to watch it happen from across the void between buildings. The eye-bleeding detail becomes a key diagnostic throughout Titor's life. Both survivors learn to check themselves constantly for that symptom. Any nosebleed, any red eyes, any sign that blood vessels might be rupturing becomes a source of terror. The transformation is internal and visible at the same time, blood forcing its way out of your face while the virus rewrites your brain. Isolation creates psychological horror, but combine speed with consciousness and you get something worse. No time to process, no buffer between human and threat. One remake proved the fastest transformations force the most brutal choices. Dawn of the Dead remake. Zack Snyder's 2004 version made zombies fast and the transformations faster. The opening scene with Anna establishes the rules. Her husband Luis gets bitten by their neighbor's transformed daughter. The bite happens so quickly he doesn't even register it at first. Then the blood starts flowing and reality sets in. He's got minutes. Luis doesn't get a slow decline. He gets rapid deterioration. His eyes glaze over. His breathing becomes ragged. Anna tries to stop the bleeding, tries to help, but you can see the life draining out of him in real time. When he dies, she allows herself one moment of grief. Then his eyes snap open and he lunges at her. The transformation in Dawn isn't about the physical process. It's about the psychological whiplash. You go from holding your dying husband to being attacked by something wearing his face in the span of seconds. The movie uses that shock value repeatedly throughout. Someone gets bitten, someone dies, something wearing their shape tries to kill you. The speed eliminates any buffer between human and monster. The bloated woman scene later in the film adds body horror to the mix. The survivors encounter a zombie that's been dead and transforming for a while. Her body is swollen, bloated with gases and fluids. When she moves, you can hear the sloshing of rot inside her. When she's killed, she doesn't just fall, she ruptures. The transformation didn't stop at death. It kept going, turning her corpse into a biological hazard. What Dawn's remake does effectively is show how transformations force immediate, brutal choices. CJ, the mall security guard, has to shoot someone he knows who got infected. No time for debate or emotional goodbyes. Infected means dead means threat. The only question is whether you can pull the trigger before they turn and hurt someone else. Multiple characters face that choice throughout the film, and none of them handle it well. Even when they make the right call, you can see it breaking them. The film also explores transformation aftermath through Andy, the gun store owner trapped across the street. The survivors watch him through binoculars as his store gets overrun. They can't help him. They can't save him. When he finally gets bitten and knows he's turning, he writes goodbye messages on a whiteboard and holds them up for the survivors to read. His final message, "I'm sorry." Then he walks out of frame and they hear the gunshot. Andy's transformation is off screen, but the weight of it hits just as hard. Fast transformations eliminate goodbyes. But what happens when there's just enough time for last words, yet not enough to process them? When comedy meets genuine loss? That balance creates something unique, because one mother's transformation proves timing is everything, and sometimes slow is worse than fast. Shaun of the Dead. Comedy horror that uses transformation for both laughs and genuine emotional weight. Barbara's transformation happens off-screen initially. Sean and Ed leave her in the car while they deal with zombies, and when they come back, she's been bitten. She doesn't tell them at first. She stays quiet, not wanting to burden them, slowly bleeding out in the back seat while her son tries to save everyone. When Sean finally notices, Barbara's already gone pale. She's weak, barely conscious, struggling to stay present. What follows is one of the most emotionally devastating scenes in any zombie movie. Sean has to listen to his mother apologize for being a burden, tell him she loves him, and give him permission to let her go. Then, she dies, and he has to wait for her to come back so he knows it's really over. Barbara's transformation is slow enough that there's time for goodbyes, but fast enough that those goodbyes feel rushed and inadequate. Sean doesn't get to process his mother's death before he's dealing with her corpse reanimating. The transformation strips away any chance for proper grief. You go from deathbed to threat assessment without breathing room. The film's other major transformation hits differently. David gets torn apart by zombies in the Winchester pub. The transformation happens while he's literally being eaten alive. He's screaming, begging for help, and then suddenly he stops. The pain ends. He stands up, intestines hanging out, and starts attacking his friends. The transformation completed while his body was still being destroyed. What Shaun of the Dead does brilliantly is use transformation timing for emotional impact. Barbara's slow death allows for meaningful last words. David's mid-attack turn emphasizes horror. Even the background zombies serve the comedy horror balance, shambling threats that used to be people but are now punchlines. The movie asks what happens when transformation becomes so common it stops being shocking and starts being routine. How do you maintain maintain humanity when turning into a monster is just another thing that happens. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.